I wasn't going to talk about Star Wars Outlaws, but I got to get this out of the way because I got so many problems with this game already. First of which, there's apparently only going to be 5 planets in this quote unquote open world Star Wars game. 5. KOTOR had more planets back in the day. Fallen Order's got at least 6 or 7, and most of them are new. This one apparently going to have 5, and they're of course throwing Tatooine to it again. Like there's 2 things I can't stand in Star Wars: Tatooine and the freaking Death Star. They keep popping up over and over again. It's so stupid.
Making Star Wars open world games is the next level of difficulty.
Julian Geraghty, creative director at Massive Entertainment, is up for a challenge. For the first time ever, we're getting a fully open-world Star Wars video game. It's been a long time coming, but after back-to-back successes with both The Division and The Division 2, Geraghty was in the mood to take a risk.
This may be just my approach, but even if it's scary, you've got to do it. You've got to lean into it. What's the downside to pitching a Star Wars game at Lucasfilm Games in George Lucas's old office? I mean, what's the downside to that? If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but you still have that experience.
Fast forward several years after that meeting, and Massive Entertainment is less than 2 months away from releasing Star Wars Outlaws, a fully realised version of the original pitch described in that office. An open world of dual ambitions: maintain the cinematic legacy of the films and create immersive scoundrel gameplay that grants you the freedom of the galaxy.
I think it's taken this long to get an open world Star Wars game because of how, excuse the pun, massive it is to build a game like this. There are only so many studios in the world who build games of this scale. The door is then open for Massive to come to us and say, this is what we're interested in doing. This is the type of game design and gameplay we want. This is what we're thinking about in terms of an archetype. Where does that fit?
It's the outlaw player fantasy, and it's open world. Those were the 2 main pillars that we pitched. Why open world? Because the outlaw fantasy really needs that to live and breathe.
It's a combination of, I think, our DNA as a studio, our background, when we think, okay, what do we have a lot of experience doing? What do we think we're good at? And this fantasy. See the scoundrel in Star Wars begs for freedom.
Massive was fully confident in its abilities to create engaging open worlds. The Division offered a bullet-filled action playground, while last year's Avatar Frontiers of Pandora displayed an ability to work well within a Disney license by building a near-unmatched visual paradise. But Star Wars was the new challenge that this team yearned for. Of course, deciding what kind of experience would live inside a Star Wars open world was the first thing that had to be decided.
We took a step back, of course, and thought, okay, Star Wars open world, what an opportunity. What does that naturally want to be? And it wants to be the full scale from the very small to the very big, meaning sitting inside a cantina playing Sabak, being able to walk through the street, jump on your speeder, drive across the planet's surface. Park literally your bike in your own ship, take off into space seamlessly.
That vision of full scale helped secure a green light from Star Wars custodians, but getting Lucasfilm's blessing was just the key in the ignition. Translating the cinematic spectacle of the original Star Wars movie trilogy into an open world, set between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the
So this is exactly where my problems continue with this game. It's like, again, we can't seem to get away from the original damn trilogy. There's Star Wars is a galaxy far, far away. There's hundreds of thousands of years of history before the movies and after them, called the expanding universe. Though according to Empress KK, there's no source material. that old bat clearly hasn't read any of the damn books. She's a fool. But now this is a great concept for a game. I just wish it was in the Old Republic. There's so much more room to play with in the Old Republic here, or something past the movies. Like The Mandalorian had a good start, but then it started doing all this Easter egg stuff. We got excited about the time, but like kind of took away from the story, I guess. But like setting this between Empire and Returns is, to me, is really stupid. You could do the same exact thing in the Old Republic, but have so much more freedom to work with. Because now, and this is going to again prove my point that Disney never should have bought Star Wars, because they've been doing this for years. This in-between crap. Even the Fallen Order games are great. They're still in between damn films. Both of them. Fallen Order is like 5 years after Revenge of the Sith. And then Survivor is like, what, maybe 3 years later or something? Before the original Star Wars or in Rogue Zero. So the timeline is just, they're too afraid to go past the original trilogy. Back in the day, in the EU, after Return of the Jedi, as soon as the Death Star blows up, there are books that take place with pilots going on in their next mission. Luke starting his academy, Han and Leia getting married, having the twins, and Anakin Solo, their third kid, who was the youngest, and I think he died using Long War. Lando's doing his own thing, getting out Luke building his academy like you're supposed to do. Not running away like a coward. Because I'm like, what could you possibly do in between Empire and Return to? Like maybe 3 years in between each of those? Because like, Lando might show up like how? He's on his way to Tatooine to rescue Han. It's like after Empire's back, ain't no way he got time for that. He got time for nothing else. He's on his way to Tatooine. That's literally how the movie ends. When we find Jabba the Hutt and that bounty hunter, we'll contact him. And he and Chewbacca blast off in the Falcon. So that's the thing that annoys me with Disney Wars. All this stupid Easter eggs. All the stupid Easter eggs, and hey, remember the Death Star? Remember Han Solo on Carbonite? Remember Jabba the Hutt? It's going to be in the game. Don't get me wrong, I have every intention of playing this. I'm just not completely sold on it yet. Which, considering it's freaking Star Wars, shouldn't be struggling this much were not to buy it. Damn thing. This was Fallen Order or Survivor would have already pre-ordered, but unfortunately, I just keep running into all these hiccups with this game. Still gonna get it, just not out till like the end of August, so I'm not really rushing into it, but at the same time, like, yeah, Star Wars Eclipse has been delayed to like 2027 or something. I would have rather had that come out than have this delayed. Honest truth. Because Star Wars Eclipse, like I said, in the Old Republic or something, what I've been clamoring for years. Something way, way from the original trilogy. Because at this point, it's just getting really tiresome. Seeing the same stories over and over again. Where we're going to put an Andor guy in between Revenge in the original film, right before Rogue Zero. We were going to set Ahsoka, after Return of the Jedi. When we're going to set Kenobi, after the Clone Wars. So it's always in the same timeline that they've been stuck in. And the only shit that happened after the movies is that awful Disney Wars trilogy made by Roundhead and Jar Jar Abrams. And all three of those movies sucked. So I think we were all fooled with Disney Wars 7, but by the time I came to my senses, I'm like, yeah, this is shit. Characters are garbage, story stinks, and it just got worse. I got some hope for this Outlaws game. Let's hope it doesn't come to repetitive with all the blaster stuff. Hopefully they mix it up a little bit. And for the love of goodness, can we get some aliens that speak their own native tongue, please? Stop with the damn aliens speaking English. Ridiculous. Back in the day, I was going to reference the expanded universe, and back in the day, KOTOR, every alien you encounter speaks their native tongue with subtitles. Every single one, with the exception of like Mission Vale or Juhani. They have their own native tongue, but Mission Vale basically grew up among humans. So she's an exception. Juhani, an exception. She's a KOTOR. Yeah, obviously she had her own native tongue, but for the sake of that story, it makes sense for her to speak Galactic Basic. Fine. Like every alien you see at a kiosk or a droid store, they spoke their native tongue with subtitles. Because it makes it feel more authentic, like you're actually in that universe. You got aliens speaking like my next door neighbor. How the hell is it Star Wars? It's so lazy.
The Jedi, two of the most iconic films of all time, was the actual challenge. One that Massive set out to address in every aspect of Outlaws, from the way it looks and sounds to the type of action-adventure gameplay it supplies.
Fire up the hyperdrive.
The sort of cinematic ambition that we had was in presentation. So that doesn't mean cinematics necessarily. What I care the most about is the interactive part, right? What we did was take a lot of inspiration from the original trilogy, but with today's technology. So very similar to what Rogue One did. What its aim was to do was to...
I wouldn't use Rogue Zero as inspiration for anything. It always suck balls. That movie was so boring. I must have fallen asleep at least 3 times in the theater. So boring. So I wouldn't use that as a reference for anything. Andor guy even less. That show stinks too. I don't care what anyone says. The show is boring. Character is boring. There's no substance to them whatsoever. It's like I watched maybe 3 episodes. The show wasn't Star Wars to me, man. It's not. It's not.
Replicate a lot of the sort of filmic effects of those lenses of the 1970s. So you'll see barrel distortion on the sides, vignetting, film grain, chromatic aberration, and of course, all wrapped up in an ultra widescreen presentation.
It's a key point for open world games at large, but I think very much for Star Wars as well. And not always scale in that it needs to be grand, but it needs to be conscious. The scale of Tatooine needs and should and does in our game feel very different. It breeds open. Sand dunes, long sight lines. You see, it's easy to pick up any little anomaly on the horizon. There might be an opportunity for you compared to the dense streets of Kijimi.
Scale is something written into the very DNA of Star Wars, whether seen on the big or small screen. Greg Fraser, Rogue One's director of photography, recently told IGN that
if you watch any Star Wars film, that's what it's all about. It's, knowing how big a human is going into this massive Millennium Falcon. You know how big the Millennium Falcon is going to this massive Death Star. It's scale upon scale upon scale.
it's a philosophy Garrity and the team at Massive took into Outlaws when crafting the introduction to its open world.
One of our intentions was for the beginning of the game to make it feel very small and then bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So beginning of the game, you start off in one room and it's claustrophobic and it's meant to make you feel a little bit trapped. You open up and it's city streets, but it's contained. And then some narrative stuff and you steal a ship and you explode into the galaxy and all of a sudden you crash land on this planet, which is wide open world. That sort of sense of everything growing for you, and not just the scale of the galaxy, but the scale of the possibilities for you as a character, as a rookie outlaw.
K-Vess, the underworld's favorite new scoundrel.
Outlaws campaign tells the tale of K-Vess, a young scoundrel looking to build a team from across the stars in order to pull off one big space heist and remove the death mark placed on her by the Zerek Besh crime syndicate. It's the basis of a story that evokes many other adventures from across both games and film.
I love Mass Effect 2. It was one of my favorite games. I think there were so many influences, everything from Ocean's 11, Ocean's 8 to Star Wars itself, the previous films. Like that heist feeling was always kind of in the fabric, to just tonally films of Kurosawa, those original influences to George Lucas.
Knowing what sort of story you want to tell is one thing. Telling an engaging story in an open world setting is another task altogether, and one that Kavari is well aware of, having written for Far Cry 4, 5, and 6, as well as The Division.
It's one of the things you always have to keep in mind is, how are we going to weave a narrative and an open world together so that we're telling the story, but also giving you the freedom to sort of go wherever you like. We had a really clear approach on Outlaws, which was, there was Kay's journey. We called them sort of lighthouses. There were key points that we knew we want her to hit these, and then that makes her story kind of part of the wider Star Wars narrative. But between those moments, we knew early on that if you got distracted by curiosity, the world had to react to that. It had to expect that the player is going to go off the beaten path.
The things that lie off the beaten path are built in accordance to something Massive refers to as the 3-second rule, where within a few blinks of an eye, you can instantly understand the nature of a location or character and the story behind them.
Before you even put life in them, they need to visually tell a story about what kind of place it is, what's happened in the past, what type of life and events have taken place in them. So they get that lived-in feeling, and that lived-in, relatable, substantial feel, I think is a hallmark of any good open world, but also very Star Wars.
Star Wars' aesthetic has always been rooted in the idea of the used future, where everything from the largest spaceships to the tiniest droids have that instantly recognizable layer of grime. Those small details build up into authentic, cool, and bespoke spaces, something Massive has always managed to build into its open worlds. The Division and its sequel are packed full of memorable levels ranging from New York landmarks to Washington DC museums, and that philosophy is being transferred to Outlaw's many planets. Its main missions promise to take us to iconic locations such as Imperial bases and Jabba's palace.
We can lean into the virtual
So that's another issue there. I was talking about all these stupid Easter eggs and nostalgia factor. Is like, again, this is why Lucasfilm stayed away from politics in the prequels, or not the prequels, the Disney Wars trilogy, because they're afraid. They're still scared to this day. They couldn't even get Luke Skywalker right, for Christ's sake. And they have the actor with them. All three of them had all three. They had Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, and Mark Hamill. Never did they ever unite, the three of them. Lando as well. And even though it's part of the trilogy, as the Trinity, commonly play, but Lando I still include him in that group because he's in the original trilogy. But to this day, they're still scared to branch out. They haven't clamored for years for them to do. They're still scared. And then now I'm afraid it's going to start sinking into the games, which is the only aspect of Star Wars I got left outside the expanded universe books, which are all on my shelf. Back just to remind me of back when the Star Wars used to be good, before Mickey Mouse and Empress Kege took over and threw it into the ground. But like Jabba's palace, I'm like, why? Why do we keep going back to Tatooine? Why? It's set in between the damn films. How many other planets are out there? We can go to Nar Shaddaa, go to Coruscant, you go to Kessel, you go to Pagano. What's the other one called? Zepho from Fallen Order, brand new planet. Pagano, brand new planet. Dathomir. You go to so many other planets, and they picked Tatooine again. What about Navarro from Mandalorian series? Like, there's so many planets you can go to make this strictly unique in a way. Strictly unique. And they picked Tatooine again. We want to talk about repetitive? That's repetitive.
Tourism aspect of, hey, what is the distance between the moisture farms and Mos Eisley and the cantina? There is a linear roller coaster story golden path, if you will. And around that, of course, there's the open world.
That's the dream I know I had as a kid. That is what I've always wanted from a Star Wars game, is that, you know, when I'm on a journey, when I'm entering into a quest, it might start on foot. They might start navigating a High Republic cruiser that's crashed, but I want to be able to jump into my speeder and blast off, hop into the Trailblazer, take off into space, maybe land in a space station and meet some characters that factor into my quest or journey along the way. And so that sort of connective tissue of planet or moon to space was crucial, because that's kind of the fantasy that I think players are hoping for.
That fantasy and freedom is evidently at the core of Outlaws, and while all 5 planets and moons won't be instantly available,
5 planets. 5. In an open world game. Let me tell you, KOTOR back in the day must have had like 6 or 7, maybe 8 planets. There was Dantooine, Taris. I can't remember all of them right now, but Korriban was one of them. That appears in both KOTOR 1 and 2. No, you do go to Tatooine, KOTOR. Never mind. You did go there. Oh, shit. Tatooine's in every freaking Star Wars game. Holy cow. You don't go to Tatooine in the second one, but I think it is in the first one. Damn. That's so much for that. You see why it gets on my nerves going to Tatooine all the damn time? Jesus. This guy says it's 5. 5 in an open world Star Wars game. You told me you couldn't put more than 5 planets in a Star Wars game? Quote unquote open world? Yeah, guess I'll see. There hasn't been that much that's convincing me this is going to be good, because 5 planets to me is kind of pathetic. Considering the scale of Star Wars Galaxy, 5? Tatooine don't count. So it's really 4 as far as I'm concerned. I mean, nothing new you can show me in Tatooine hasn't been seen a gazillion times before. Tatooine don't count. It doesn't.
to hyperdrive between, Geraghty claims it won't be long into Kay's journey until the galaxy opens up.
There's a very structured intro that leads you to crash land on Tashara, which is a moon that we created with Lucasfilm Games. And once you finish the sort of linear narrative on Tashara, the other planets open up. And there it becomes completely non-linear, and you can choose to tackle those in any order you want.
Oh, why aren't they texting?
Exploration of these worlds is highly encouraged, with maps that are not, at least initially, flooded with icons and points of interest, because you're seeing are not, at least initially, flooded.
See right here on the screen, Mos Eisley. How many times have we seen Mos Eisley? It's in the Phantom Menace. It's in the original Star Wars film. Only time we don't go with Tatooine is in Empire Strikes Back. That's it. It's the only one. It's the only one. It's in Attack of the Clones. It's in Revenge of the Sith. It's in The Mandalorian, for crying out loud. Now I remember it is in KOTOR 1. Jeez. It's one of my favorite games. Now I'm just like, damn. Tatooine's in that amazing game too. It's not in the second one. I mean, I would have loved to see Nar Shaddaa again. Nar Shaddaa is such as it's like the opposite of Coruscant. It's a more of a breeding ground for criminals and whatnot. Coruscant has like the lower levels for like shady meetings and whatnot, but that's in the core world. Nar Shaddaa is like more like in its own area, I guess. I don't know specifically where Nar Shaddaa is, but like it's more of an underbelly of criminals. It's like I remember KOTOR 2 at Rand was like, oh, this is where you go to hide if you're on the run or something. Even Fallen Order mentions Nar Shaddaa in the beginning of the story. So like, it's nice to know that that planet is still mentioned here and there. I would have rather seen Nar Shaddaa again instead of Tatooine. I feel like there's only time. There's nothing new you can show me in Tatooine. Nothing. At this point, it's just a bunch of Easter eggs and nostalgia, and that just doesn't work as well as it used to. It was like, well, I know what Jabba's palace is going to be in this game for some reason. How many huts are out there? You gotta specifically use Jabba the Hutt. How many huts are out there in the galaxy? There's huts on Nar Shaddaa, there's huts on Coruscant. Like, come on, man. Why Tatooine again? Why? Just why? I just like it's lazy. It's lazy. Shit, even Republic Commando doesn't have Tatooine on it. You go to Geonosis and Kashyyyk. Kashyyyk would be another cool planet to see again. Kashyyyk is in the Old Republic as well. Yeah, so there's Taris, Kashyyyk, unfortunately Tatooine, Korriban. Yeah. Don't remember some of the other ones. I have to think on it. But,
flooded with icons and points of interest, because you're seeing these places from a fresh perspective.
I'm going to call BS on that. Fresh perspective? From whose perspective? Who hasn't seen any of the films with Tatooine in it by now? Unless you just got squirted out into the world. It's like, there's Mos Eisley, there's Mos Espa from the prequel era. And apparently there's another one called Mos Pelgo who was introduced in the Mandalorian series. But it's all on the same planet.
Kay as a character hasn't seen the galaxy. So the first time Kay comes to Toshara is the first time you come to Toshara. And it's not an unknown, uncharted place. So you'll have a map of where you can see mountains over there and stuff. But discovery is what gives you more information.
You're going to have to take some risks. You're going to have to go to a cantina, and you can eavesdrop, pick up on some conversations that will lead you to another location that reveals a location within the open world that you have to get on your speeder to go and find. There will be a fog of war that you'll be able to clear up, and that's really where your curiosity will open things up even more.
Each of Outlaws' worlds vary in size. Toshara, Massive's newly created moon, is around the same size as the jungle planet of Akiva, but a little smaller than the vast desert of Tatooine.
It was less about how big, but more about how long in terms of traversal with the speeder it would be. 4 or 5 minutes non-stop, which doesn't sound like a lot, but once you're committed, it's a fairly large amount. You're always going to be distracted. Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which was one of the games that we were looking at while creating this, you have different zones, so it's 2 or 3 of those together.
And that doesn't even take into account the vast areas of space that surround each planet and serve as entirely different areas of orbital exploration and opportunity. We'll cover that, as well as the starship side of the game, in greater depth later on in this month's IGN First.
I said, run.
In terms of mission design, we've seen action ranging from stealth infiltrations, frantic dogfights, high-speed chases, and intense blaster battles, with some quests even evolving to include all these elements at different stages. Star Wars Outlaws is thus perhaps better thought of as a single-player narrative action-adventure in the wrappings of an open world, something more akin to Marvel's Spider-Man than dense RPGs like The Witcher or
One thing I will say, I'm getting some Uncharted vibes from this. Which all in all isn't terrible. Uncharted's amazing. Especially if we're talking about the original Uncharted games. I like 4. I think it missed some beats looking back on it. But they really dive into that adventurous aspect, and it should be okay. I just really wish we could stay the hell away from Tatooine for once. It's getting on my nerves how often that planet pops up. It's lazy at this point.
Division 1 and Division 2. There's a life, a dynamism, a systemic quality to Division 2 that we didn't have in Division 1. I'm not talking about the presentation, the soft values at all. I'm talking about pure gameplay experience, single player or cooperative. That was very, very important to us to have as a living, breathing element that engages players while they're playing Outlaws.
It's an evolution of what Massive has been doing in their games for years now, keeping worlds feeling bustling and alive, even when set against post-apocalyptic backdrops or in the midst of galactic wars.
We, in both Division games, but especially in the second one, developed what we call living world systems. So same thing here. We have systems that make sure that the world is always alive with movement, traffic, speeders zipping around, the Empire patrolling, the syndicates have footholds out there, sometimes more substantial events happen. It's really up to you if you want to engage or not.
Perhaps Outlaw's most interesting method of breathing life into its open world is its approach to character progression. There's no leveling up or incremental stat boost to drop experience points into. Instead, Kay's ability and equipment are linked to experts, people you'll meet across the galaxy who'll grant you upgrades in exchange for work.
I heard you're the best shot on the planet.
Oh, and you.
This is what I'm talking about. Got alien right here, speaking like my next door neighbor. What? WTF, man? For real? Could have had it speaking whatever language that we can speak, then just have the subtitles on the screen below. It's as simple as that. We can't seem to do that in Star Wars anymore for some reason. And could you imagine Chewbacca speaking like a regular dude? That's how stupid this is. This is ridiculous.
You want to be second best.
They are full-on characters. You don't know exactly who they are, what exactly they have to offer you, and how to reach them from the very beginning. So there's this journey of discovery here as well. Intel, clues. Okay, I think there's a guy or gal or something that can do good things to my speeder here. Meaning these are really strong incentives for you to move around and journey through the world and expose yourself to other fun things on the way. And once you reach them, there's a character there to interact with and an adventure to go on, because they want instantly just, oh, here you go, right? And then they essentially open up a little regional progression for you where the nature of unlocking those things is also very tangible.
For example, after finding a Jawa by sourcing their location from overheard intel at a cantina, you can complete a mission for them in order to gain a new skill. In this case, it's to venture into a dead Sarlacc to find a pristine tooth from its second mouth, which you can then exchange for a laser turret for K's starship, the Trailblazer. It's a smart way of blending gameplay progression with narrative befitting of the Star Wars criminal underbelly.
You can go on a journey with a character such as an expert who is going to teach Kay a new skill, give her a new upgrade, to her blaster. That skill, that upgrade definitely ties into Kay pulling off the heist, but it's also very much its own journey, which is in the Star Wars tradition as well.
Another system aiming to marry gameplay with narrative is how Outlaws tracks Kay's reputation with each of the criminal syndicates. Her bond with each of the Hutts, Pikes, Crimson Dawn, and Ashiga clan will strengthen or weaken depending on your choices in dialogue and mission objectives.
I'm gonna finish it.
Shame.
Your reputation moving.
Once again, another alien speaking like my next door neighbor. Would it make more sense for that sauced alien to speak like speak like whatever language they speak, and then have a fire blaster? How stupid would it be if Greedo from the original film spoke like a next door neighbor? They lived for this for a long time, so instead of his native language with subtitles, then on fires a blaster, like, this time I've got the money. It's like it makes it more interesting when you go back and forth when you got an alien speaking actual alien and the human speaking no human. Like, come on, man. Even the Mandalorian had aliens speaking their native tongue. It's one of the many good things about that series. It's so lazy. Ugh. Can't believe they're charging like $50 for this.
In the positive direction unlocks a lot of things for you. Everything from actual access to territory that they control, where you might have been able to sneak in otherwise, to landing.
Like even Lando's pal Neenub from Return of the Jedi, he was speaking his native language, and then Lando would translate. It's as simple as that. That was his Chewbacca. I don't know what happened to Neenub after Return of the Jedi, but it's stuff like that. It's so simple to do. So you gotta be able to get a read on the shit up or down. Like Virginia would say, you know if we're coming. Shit like that. Then it's so simple. This has been a thing since the original film. I mean, granted, you don't have to do that in the books because obviously you're not gonna have like Chewbacca doing rah in the books. But like when you're doing that in live action or any type of other medium like TV or the games, just put the subtitles on the screen and have them speak their native language. Why is that so difficult to do? Or get a protocol door to translate. Simple. My God. This is why the expanded universe is always going to be the best. Because clearly, Lucasfilm can't handle living up to the EU.
Paths in the open world, discount with traders affiliated with the syndicate, unique, really exotic rewards, etc., etc. But if you really get on their bad side, that's another thing that you will feel dynamically in the game, because they actually send hit squads out for you in the open world.
The reputation system doesn't just sit inside of missions, though. Smaller opportunities regularly present themselves to boost your relationships among the syndicates. These might be smaller skirmishes where choosing to get involved can benefit you and the organization you side with, and a strong bond may even help you out with the bigger threat looming over the galaxy.
So if my only gripe with this wanted system, if it's anything like Red Dead Redemption 2, it's probably going to be shit, because the wanted system in Red Dead Redemption 2 is terrible. You can look at someone the wrong way and then all of a sudden you'll be wanted. I'm just like, what did I do to get all the attention from these cops? But when you're like, shoot up an entire town, then that can get you wanted, okay. But like, I just accidentally bump into somebody and they all of a sudden they start running towards the sheriff's office. The master's wanted 3 minutes later. Like, what the hell was that? So if this one is like that, it's going to be garbage. So hopefully they don't take a cue from Red Dead Redemption.
This is getting bad. Hold right.
If you, for whatever reason, ended up wanted and you're being chased by Empire and you cross paths with a syndicate that you have really good reputation with at the moment, they might join in and help you out.
Outlaws directly follows the events of The Empire Strikes Back and sees the Imperial forces at the peak of their powers. In gameplay terms, the Stormtroopers are basically like GTA's police and adopt a similar wanted system. Find
Oh my god, Grand Theft Auto, it's even worse.
yourself in a restricted area or accidentally fire a stray laser bullet at a stormtrooper, and you'll quickly find yourself in hot water. It's by no means a revolutionary system when it comes to open world design, but one that is made all the more exciting thanks to a lick of Imperial black and white paint.
I don't know if exciting is the word I would use.
It has a good range of escalation and de-escalation. It's really up to you if you want to try and hide or maybe bribe an Imperial officer that's a bit corrupt in a city somewhere, or try to jump to a different space region. But you will feel it, and let's just say there are death troopers for a reason.
Hang on!
Because like another thing that's so good about the Old Republic is that, well, for one, there's so many more unique designs for like trooper armor. The Jedi had like different categories. Like every Jedi had a different lightsaber color, was a different category. Like green was Guardian, blue was Consular, I think yellow was Sentinel. So like you had different classes for every Jedi. Like Bastila was Jedi Sentinel, and whatever saber color you pick, that's the class you go to. Well, there was that. There was the trooper armor was so much cooler. There's so many more planets that had nothing to do with like being on the run from the Empire. You basically do whatever you want. The Jedi and Sith have their eternal conflict, but this story would fit somewhat better, I think, in Old Republic. Talk about open world. Well, like, how was it open if you're always being chased by the damn Empire? Like, can we do something besides being on the run from the bloody Empire? How many storylines have we seen that do that already? Both Fallen Order games have Cal on the run. Both of them. Then we're doing it again. See what I mean when I say repetitive?
Expert side missions, and the reputation system at the core of it all, many other stackable activities exist in Outlaws open world. These range from quick contracts such as smuggling and stealing, gambling in Sabak, to playing asteroid-filled arcade shooter games, and betting on Canto Bite's Favia racing. All of these activities bolster your ever-growing supply of credits, which can be used to purchase new customization and gear options for Kay, her pet-like alien companion Nyx, and the Trailblazer. And yet, there's more. Emergent events frequently take place throughout the open world. whether on land or in space.
Every 2-3 minutes, there'll be something that's happening, whether it's an ambush or the Empire arresting some civilians or combat with some criminal syndicates, and it's up to you whether you want to engage or not.
So with so much to do in Star Wars Outlaws, how does Massive go about avoiding open world bloat? With a near endless galaxy of opportunity, there's the worry that things may spiral, feature creep sets in, and everything just gets too big. The studio had a clear plan from the start though, leading with variety over size, quality over quantity, if you will.
We don't want things to be just big for big sake. We need it to be contained, always fun, always proposing different activities.
It's about calibrating size to substance. When you see something that breaks the pattern, that stands out for whatever reason, and you go there and look, there's something there to do, and that repeats frequently enough, and that the quests, the bespoke kind of content of the game makes use of it, so that it doesn't feel like a separate experience, but it's all one.
Of course, no matter how much there will be to do in Outlaws, one thing that can be expected is a healthy helping of nods to the larger Star Wars galaxy. Lando is set to make an appearance, and we've already seen
Lando is set to make an appearance. How exactly is that going to freaking work if he's on his way to rescue Han? At the moment Empire ends, the plan to rescue Han begins. Takes a couple of years, granted, but it's called Shadows of the Empire, I believe. So, like, when is Lando going to have time to, like, cross paths with this random chick? It's so dumb. Could have been a number of other characters, or, I don't know, a new character, but Lando is otherwise occupied. See what I mean when I talk about lazy? It's lazy. Don't make any sense. Especially when you said after Empire. Doesn't make any sense.
seen a glimpse of Han Solo and Carbonite, but it sounds like they might just be the tip of the iceberg.
There's Easter eggs, there's characters that you'll meet along the way across the main quests and across, whether it's the experts or, you know, the wider stories you're going to stumble across. August 30th is a really great date. I recommend bookmarking it in your calendar.
August 30th.
Yeah. Guess we'll see, won't we? Yeah, so I've got mixed thoughts, as you can see from this little breakdown of the trailer. This was a recent IGN first look, dropped a couple days ago. Yeah. I want to be excited, I really do. It's not out for like another month, so got some time to think on it, I guess. But right now, I'm not sure I'm quite feeling it. Like, I need them to really study the expanding universe, because there's a reason the EU is so popular. And I don't think Lucasfilm has gotten that. I don't think Lucasfilm really understands how popular the EU is. Like, clearly with the failure of their stupid trilogy, they think they would go back to the drawing board, like, hey, what actually worked after the original trilogy? Could it be the books and the games and the comics?